Let's talk about how to sustain a resilient mindset over an extended period of time. Let's get into it. So when we think about building, sustaining, maintaining resilience, the first thing that often happens for most people is that they start off on a high. So if you think about yourself and any particular scenario that you've been in, when you've been doing your research and watching videos like mine and people like David Goggins, it puts you in this position where you feel like you're electric, you can achieve anything, and you have all of this great sense of motivation and perseverance that you can go out and achieve great things. But then the challenge is life then kicks in. And when I say life kicks in, you get hit with setbacks, rejection starts to come in your way, there's challenges, and all of these things make it really, really difficult for you to retain this resilience that you've been working on and building through content and books and all of the other things that you've been likely surrounding yourself by from the fact that you're watching this video right now. And then ultimately you crumble. And so it becomes this vicious cycle of you start off on this great high, you feel like you've got all of this momentum in your cell, life then comes and smacks you square in the face and you get set back and then you break down and then you rinse and repeat and you go and watch another motivational video, get inspired again, and you go through this vicious cycle. So the question then becomes, how do you sustain a resilient mindset over an extended period of time? And as with everything in life, I believe that there are frameworks that can help and assist with this process. So the first step is to create principles and a new identity for yourself. What do I mean by that? So when I talk about principles, these really act as your compass in life to steer you in the right direction whenever you feel conflicted about what course of action you should take. So if you think about certain principles you could have, it could be, for example, whenever you get rejected, the first thing you do is you move on. And that could be a principle that you set for yourself as something that's going to serve you in the way that you think, the way that you act, and the way that you operate. Another thing might be the fact that if something in your life doesn't serve you, then you move it out immediately, or you move it out within a really confined period of time. And so that's going to be another principle that you could have for yourself. A third thing, which forms more a part of your new identity, is that you demand daily excellence from yourself in every area of your life. And so that might be with the way that you keep your home, that might be with the way that you perform when you're out there building your business or doing your role in your job. Whatever it is, you just demand excellence at any given time. And so you go through this process of creating these principles and this new form identity of yourself, and you've got to write this down. So you've got to document this somewhere. Get a piece of paper, get on your laptop, get on your phone, and write down, here are the principles that I'm going to live by, and here's the new identity of who I am as a person in the world. The next thing is that you've then got to reinforce all of that with action, right? It's no good having all of these things in your mind if you're not actually then consistently reinforcing it by taking intentional action. You've got to think about your brain like a muscle. It's got to be built. And if you're not building it and maintaining it and sustaining it, then it will ultimately start to go back to its old habits. So when we talk about the reinforcement with actions, if, of course, I'm a sales leader, right? So if I think about my time as being a salesperson or even as a leader, an example of this reinforcement with action could be if I make a cold call and it fails, the immediate thing I'm going to do is just make another one. And that plays into the when rejected, I move on. So you don't want to sit and ruminate in the fact that the cold call failed. It's like, cold call has failed. The immediate thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make another call and immediately get back on that wagon. The next thing playing into the if it doesn't serve me, move it out might be, say you've got someone who's argumentative in your life, maybe a friend, colleague, whatever the case is. You've then got to distance yourself. And this is where the premise of sacrifice comes into the mix. But it goes back to your principle of, if it doesn't serve me, I've got to move it out. And without taking that intentional action, you're always going to be in this position where you're going to be in this vicious cycle, because you're always going to have that person constantly pulling you back, if they're argumentative, they're taking emotional energy away from you that you could be using to drive your mission forward. So you've got to be really prescribed with something like this to say, if it doesn't serve me, move it out. If there's this person in my life who's not helping me and enabling me to move forward, I've got to create some form of distance. And then on the third point of your identity, I demand daily excellence from myself. That might be like I spoke about before. If you've got a messy apartment, a messy home, you need to hire a cleaner, or you've got to do the cleaning yourself. You've got to have someone who can take care of that. That's been an example where I've had to have that in my own world, is that I have a cleaner who comes every single week. I don't like cleaning, to be honest with you. I find that it's a time drain, but I demand daily excellence of myself with not only the way that I operate and the way that I show up for work and the way that I show up every single day, but also with the way that I present myself and also the way that I present my home for myself and if someone's to come and visit. So as a part of that demand for daily excellence, I've got to make sure that I also have a neat and tidy apartment that is always ready if someone was to come and visit, or to make sure that I also feel good in the working setting that I have for myself as well. Now, the last piece here is picking out some colors, is to be accountable by tracking your progress. And I do this personally through journaling every single evening. Now, if you think about this now, you've created these principles in this newfound identity. You're taking intentional action all the time. But if you're not tracking, measuring, and refining, you're not going to be in a position where you can make sure that you're actually getting better. Like I say, your brain is like a muscle. You've got to build on it every single day. So if you're not continuing to build and tracking and making sure that you're actually progressing, you're going to start to find that you're going to rescind and go back to old habits. So if we go back and look at this, these are the old habits. The starting on a high, getting hit square in the face by life, and then crumbling. And without constantly going through this cycle wheel here, you're going to find that you're going to consistently go backwards when you need to make sure that you're always moving forward. So every night in my journal, I'll write down the intentional actions that I took, the alignment that it has to my principles and my identity, and then make sure that I'm continuing to move forward. Now that I've been doing this for so long, I find that my journaling has become a little bit more free-flowing. But at the beginning, when I was going through this re-identification process, I was doing this consistently, sometimes multiple times a day, making sure that reviewing my day to say, hey, these were the things that happened, how well aligned were the actions that I took to the principles and to the identity. And as you go through this process over and over and over again, your brain starts to rewire itself to make sure that you're doing this consistently. And then over time, you just find that you're a newfound person and you've got that consistent alignment between who you are, the action you take, the measurements that you're taking around that action, and then continuing to pioneer forward over time. I hope that this video has been helpful in some way. Please let me know if it has been in the comment section, and I'll see you on the next one.